and to get me to a place where I could really suss out, what are the lies that I'm believing about myself? Where's the untruth? And to be able to recognize it, call it out, and like, what, this is not true. Like, I'm believing these negative things about myself, and this is just not true. That I am capable, that I am more than able to accomplish and to do things and to be a good human and to encourage and empower other people. So it really was born out of a desire to kind of pay back some of the gifts that were given to me.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. It's Audley Stevenson here, and welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our focus is to help our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. In this episode, we have the pleasure of welcoming Robyn Sears to the podcast. She's the founder of Above and Not Beneath as our special guest. Robyn's work focuses on empowering single mothers through positive intelligence coaching to help them embrace their capabilities and build mental and emotional resilience. Join us as we dive into Robyn's journey, her impactful coaching approach, and the power of language and self-talk in shaping our beliefs and actions. Get ready for an inspiring, transformative conversation with Robyn Sears, coming up next on the Audacious Living Podcast. Hey, Robyn, thank you for being here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It is a pleasure. Thank you for making the time like this.
Oh, it is truly my pleasure, Audley. I am thrilled to be a guest on your show.
I oftentimes say how appreciative I am individuals come and spend the time like this and first of all, engage in such great stuff. And the conversation we have here is phenomenal. I walk away going with all these amazing lessons. And so I think that's really, really cool. So again, thank you for that. We're going to dive specifically your work, the work you do specifically with single mothers around empowerment, with such a big thing. When you can empower someone to give them the confidence, the ability to do more than they ever thought or become more than they thought they ever could be. It's such a powerful feeling, I would imagine, for you. And so maybe as a starting point, we'll get in all that stuff. But maybe as a starting point, I'll get you to sort of talk about the work you do and kind of how you landed where you did.
Yeah. So all great questions. And so I kind of, to sort of maybe back into what I am doing, I landed here oddly because I had some really powerful experiences when I was a single mother and had some incredible people pour into my life and to empower and encourage me to overcome some of those mental and emotional hurdles, some negative self-belief that I had, and to get me to a place where I could really suss out, what are the lies that I'm believing about myself? Where's the untruth? And to be able to recognize it, call it out, and like, what, this is not true. Like, I'm believing these negative things about myself, and this is just not true. That I am capable, that I am more than able to accomplish and to do things and to be a good human and to encourage and empower other people. So it really was born out of a desire to kind of pay back some of the gifts that were given to me. And so that's sort of where it came from. But my husband and I live outside of Atlanta together. We have 5 children. So we've been remarried now for almost 10 years. And he is also my greatest gift and biggest headache, right? Like, that's how marriage goes. I'm just kidding. He's actually literally the biggest blessing. But we have 5 kids between the 2 of us, and we have 3 granddaughters. Wow. And 2 grandsons on the way. So our family is rapidly expanding. We went from like empty nesters to now we have like all these grandkids.
Congratulations. Such a blessing. It really is.
Yeah, it has been, it is a blessing, and so excited to walk along our kids as they're navigating adulthood and parenthood.
Yes.
But so and so then morphing into single parents and single mothers, I just have seen over the course of my life and a lot of relationships with other single mothers, how they really struggle with stress and wearing all the hats, and they're all the things to all the people in their lives. And that's really hard because it's like a breeding ground for perfectionism, and perfectionism will steal the joy out of every situation that you're in.
You're right.
And so some of the gifts that I learned when I was a single mom, and the education that I've had and counseling and coaching that I've experienced, is to learn to laugh at my mistakes.
Simple as a
It's simple, simple,
powerful.
simple.
Yeah.
But I have a deep rooted, ingrained, uh, this mindset that you must show up a certain way, you must be a certain way, you must perform a certain way. And this bar was ridiculously high
Yes.
as I stepped into single parenthood, and then realized, oh, I can like do none of these things well.
Right.
And the conglomeration of that is that I sort of hit this wall, this physical wall, and my body was telling me, Robyn, you got to do something here, because your stress is taking a toll on you, a mental, emotional, physical toll on you, but also in your relationships.
Right.
And so I entered into this work called positive intelligence.
Okay.
And positive intelligence reiterates the fact that none of us are perfect, and that it's okay to laugh at yourself. It's okay to acknowledge your shortcomings, and look at all these beautiful strengths that you have. And to enter into a relationship with yourself that's filled with empathy and compassion and curiosity, because I think a lot of times that's what's missing, is that we're not empathetic to ourselves. We're not curious about, like, why am I feeling this way? I've got this tension in my shoulder, and what's driving that? And so I think the beautiful thing about the work, and how I really think it helps single mothers, is it makes them stop and take a breath. And in that breath and in that pause, we have the ability to check in with ourselves and say, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Like, I notice I'm breathing shallowly today. What am I feeling? What's driving that? And when we can start to just gently ask ourselves some questions, it's unbelievable how healing that is.
Right. And what I'm hearing is it's really forcing you to pay attention and be mindful of what's happening, certainly to you, but also an opportunity to what's happening around you as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Because it also keeps us present with the folks that are in front of us.
Yeah.
And with the work that we're doing. And, we've all been in those meetings where it's like, it's tense in there, like you're starting to sweat. Maybe you feel like you're under the gun. And that is our amygdala starting to take over.
Right.
And we were created with the ability to stop and pause and to take a few breaths. Like, no, logic and reason can be present in this moment. And I don't need to sit in this spin of all of the negative what ifs.
Right.
And that's what I think positive intelligence helps us to do. It helps us to pause. It helps us to breathe. It helps us to stay present. And it helps us to take a look of, like, what's really going well here?
Right.
And how can I build on that?
Got you. For listeners who are hearing the term positive intelligence coaching for the very first time, could you elaborate further to kind of give a definition, if you will?
Sure. So it was created by a gentleman named Shirzad Shermaine, and he did a lot of research and worked with universities to build this. And he calls them saboteurs, but it's the way that we self-sabotage. And he outlined there are 10 of them.
Okay.
And so, for instance, there's an assessment you can take. And I'll tell you a funny story about that. When I first took the assessment, it highlights like your first 2 saboteurs. Okay. And I was like, that's not true. No, that's not true. And so but then I started digging in and started reading and started doing this PQ work. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's totally true.
The truth set in.
Yeah. So mine are restlessness and avoidance.
Okay.
And PQ has helped me, and the goal of it really is to connect the mental, emotional, and physical, our mental, emotional, physical being. So, for instance, I know when I'm feeling restless, I know exactly what it feels like. I feel this little flutter at the very top of my chest, almost like how anxiety can feel for some
Yes.
people.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And when I recognize that I'm feeling this, I'm like, what am I avoiding?
What
It
does
could
it
be a
mean?
task, it could be a
Right.
conversation. There are a lot of different things that it could be. The flip side to the saboteurs, it's your underlying sage strength. So, for instance, people who have avoider as part of their saboteurs, like I am easygoing, I'm an even keeled temperament, I am flexible and adaptable.
Mhm.
You could change plans on me last minute, and I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Right. Right.
Um, so it's about learning to overcome the ways that we respond to stress in life, and it can be
Yes.
hyperachieving, it can be hyper rational, hyper vigilant, people pleasing, and then we all have the judge, of course, but there's 10 of
Yep.
them. And so it's about creating the awareness of what our roadblocks are, these internal saboteurs that we have, how
Yes.
our body is responding to
That's a
that.
big one. That's a big one.
Your physical body
Yep.
tell you what's going on with you emotionally before your brain can tell you what emotion you're feeling, right? And so when we learn to tap into our body and really like get inside and like, okay, what am I feeling right now? It allows your mind to start to process the emotion. And so positive intelligence is about like just sitting down 90 seconds, taking a deep breath, and it's like a micro moment of mindfulness, and it's literally just, okay, I'm going to take a couple of deep breaths. I'm not going to grab a hold of any thoughts that are floating by. I'm just going to allow the sensations of my body to kind of tell me what's going on.
Hmm.
Doesn't have to take a lot of time. People think meditation and I have to have a special room, and
Right.
you
Right.
don't, right? You can do it in the boardroom, you can do it in the kitchen, you can do it in the car driving the kids around. So it's really connecting the mental, emotional, and physical aspects of the way we respond to things and
Hmm.
helping you to learn how to pause and respond instead of react. So that was a little bit of a long-winded way to say it's about building physical awareness and emotional awareness so that we have more choice in the way that we engage.
Right. 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 So, I think the word awareness is a fabulous way of sort of wrapping that all up and understanding what we're talking about here, because everything, any sort of whether growth or change or transformation is something else, it starts with that awareness and
Yep.
understanding what needs to change or what needs to be adjusted or what needs to be reevaluated. And it's I oftentimes use awareness as like I think about awareness like the light switch, right? So you come into a dark room and there's furniture that's there already that you can't see. Well, you flip that switch and the awareness brings that light to your view. It didn't put the stuff there because it was already there, right? So it makes you understand, okay, here's what's happening. Okay, now I know the chair is there and the table is there, and you can make adjustments that you need to make accordingly.
Absolutely. I think that's a great analogy. It's just
Yeah.
starting to shine the spotlight on, and it's a kind and gentle process. This
Yeah.
is not about self recrimination. It is literally like, I guess I didn't really realize that, I avoid this task at work. Well, why am I avoiding it? Is it because I don't have enough information and I don't feel confident in completing it?
Yep.
Maybe I need to phone a friend or, take a class or something.
Yep.
But oftentimes for myself, I go back to that's my perfectionism showing up.
Mm.
And instead of like starting the project and maybe it's messy in the beginning, I feel like I need to present like this beautifully polished, completely well thought out design.
Right. Right.
But that's
Right.
not the truth, right? Like the growth comes in the mess. So we're
Yes.
better with just like, embracing the stickiness of it and just
Sure.
roll up your sleeves and get to work.
Sure. Well, the mess is supposed to. The beginning is supposed to be messy, right? It's. I often use the example of bike riding, right? Like when you got on the bike, you didn't ride instantly off the bat. Maybe there were some that naturally have that, but by and large, most people probably fell down, scraped their knees, scuffed their toes, maybe cried. I mean, all of these things, that's part of the mess, but it's through that process. And I think an important piece of that process is to continue going as opposed to, oh, I fell down, I'm done. That's over, right? It's
Absolutely.
continuing going. And I think that's sometimes where people get hung up, right? Where
Mhm.
they didn't achieve they didn't knock it out of the park at the first swing, so they put the bat down and walked away, as opposed to understanding that in baseball you get three strikes for a reason, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great analogy. And I think it's really just, it's just that, like, just to go back to the awareness of it. It is about just the awareness of, like, you know what? It's okay to, like, not be perfect. It's okay to step into this mess. And it's also a great modeling tool for our children, and particularly for single moms who are trying to do all the things,
Yep.
um, and to show up well for their kids and all of that. It's a great way to model to them, like, I dropped the ball. I made a mess here. So, like, how can I fix this? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And I think that has the ability to build deeper relationships, not only with your children, but work relationships, friend relationships, when we can sit back and go, looks like I made a mess here. How can we fix it?
What I love about the dialogue that you just gave as an example is and you talked earlier about the grace that we can have on ourselves and how important that is, and being able to forgive our own mistakes, and or recognize that we might make mistakes, and as opposed to beating ourselves up and I'm so stupid and why'd I do this and all that kind of negative self-talk. And I'm a big fan of positive self-talk, by the way. Like, I truly am. And I talk to myself all the time, and I'm honestly, I'm great. You're fantastic. I really try. And it's funny, when I started consciously doing it, it sounded kind of weird. Like, it was kind of uncomfortable a little bit too, because I'm like, okay, just relax. But I you keep going, and it's true. And I think what happens is when you run into something difficult, you run into a challenge, and you don't get it. Myself talking, okay, I saw something like this before, and how did I get through, and what did I do, or who did I call, or what. You do all that, and next thing you know, the problem you thought a problem isn't a problem anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. And I like, and it also, like, forces us to kind of move into community. And I think
Huh.
a lot of that can be missing
Mhm.
for single moms. It can be really tough to find community. But it allows us to say, okay, I'm like, I made a mess here. What am I going to do next time? How am I going to avoid this situation? To kind of get out of that thought pattern and process that they had before,
Right.
you know, was maybe not taking them where they wanted to be. And they were, maybe not living the lives that they were created to live.
Got you. Yeah, yeah. I wonder if you talked earlier about as we were talking about self-talk, the lies that we tell ourselves, and really uprooting those lies and processing them to kind of come to the terms of what really is true and what's not. What does that process look like when it comes to dealing with these lies we tell ourselves?
Yeah, I think the process, again, to kind of be reiterative, it's about stopping and pausing.
Mm,
And when you feel that negative, like, beat yourself up talk coming up, well, why?
mm,
Well, did somebody tell me that? And then I believed it because they told me that I wasn't capable. Well, but is it true? Because I've done this and this and this and this.
mhm.
And well, if I've done those things, then what they told me about me not being enough or good enough or smart enough, that was a lie. And I allowed that to become my truth. And so that's not true. So I'm believing something, some garbage that somebody else told me.
Yep.
And you just kind of start to outroot those things. It's like, oh, no, that's actually not true, because I am actually a capable human being. I am a good mother. I am a good employee. I may not know all the things, be able to be all the things, but that's okay. I don't have to. I have to show up today and do the best that I can do today
Yes.
for the people who are relying on me. And the number one person who is relying on you is you,
You right.
right? So show up for
Forget
yourself.
that, don't we? Don't we forget so
We do
quickly how
forget that. We absolutely forget that. And so I think it's really just like, it's stopping, be like, okay, I feel negative. why am I feeling negative? I'm feeling sluggish. Like I can't, I went through a period of time in my life where I'm like, I just don't want to get off the couch, you know? And like, I don't want to apply for a job. Like I lost my job at one point many years ago. I was like, I don't want to apply for a job. Like I was afraid to put myself
Mm,
back out there again. And, friends like pushing me, Robyn, like, come on, everybody loses their job. It's not that big of a deal. Like it's painful and it hurts and you're a single mom and it's
yeah,
scary
yeah,
and it's all
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
things. It's not like ignoring the hard that comes along, but it's acknowledging that those things are true, but also, yes, and right. Also, I have the ability to step into something here. And what happened when I stepped into applying for a new job was that I ended up in an incredible place with incredible humans that spoke deeply and richly into my life and made the biggest difference.
And the growth opportunity that it creates is really what
Mhm.
we're talking about. It creates that opportunity to be more than what you were. And I totally get it. In the moment when these bad things happen or the perceived bad things happen, how tough it could be, how challenging it could be. And absolutely the hardest, most difficult thing is go, oh yeah, this is good for me because it'll get me to a better place, right?
Right.
That's not realistic thinking,
No, it's
okay?
not.
We're not here to tell people that's how it goes, right? We're going to say, look, it is going to happen, but what comes out of that? And that's why when you talk about pausing, why that is so important, because it gives you that perspective to slow down, to stop, not letting the emotional, because that's the other part about this too, is, making emotional decisions oftentimes don't turn out the best for us. And so
Absolutely.
stopping and doing that and taking that pause and looking and reflecting gets us the opportunity to really appreciate those growth opportunities that you just touched on.
It absolutely does. And being able to shift from reactivity into responding, it influences the way that you parent your children. So maybe instead of like flying off the handle and yelling at them, take a deep breath and like ask them a question. Like, I see you did this, but I'm just curious about, why you thought that might be a good idea.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep, yep.
Um, and I wish that I had known a lot more of this when my children were young,
Yes.
right? I've apologized multiple times to my children. I was like, I wasn't a perfect mom, like I tried really hard. I tried really hard. And, I did tell them that if they ever needed to go to therapy or felt like we needed to go to therapy, that I would pay for it because it was probably my fault. So,
I love the honesty. That's awesome.
you know,
But Robyn, you have an opportunity. You're opportunity with your grandkids to get it right. So there you go.
That's right. That's right. And I just think, empathy and kindness and curiosity
Sure,
is a great way to step into,
sure.
um, to step into loving the little people.
There you go. There you go. You touched on the reacting versus responding, and there's such a fine line
Mhm.
between the two. Can you sort of make the distinction just so people are clear? Because I believe that there are individuals who are reacting and don't even realize that they are.
Yeah. And I think that's completely true. And I think the difference between the two is that when you are responding, you're making a conscious choice.
Okay.
When you are reacting, you are caving to an impulse, like a subconscious impulse. And the difference between the two, it's like a gas pedal, right? Like you have to pause, you have to put on the brake
Yeah.
because your amygdala has to switch to your prefrontal cortex. And that takes a second.
And then when it does, it can allow you to make those clearer decisions and have those thoughts made clearer, and you're able to think rationally. And I think that's the important. I know I touched on it earlier, but the importance of thinking rationally as we're going through this process. And so, thank you for making that distinction. I'm sort of trying to follow a pathway here on that pathway of empowering individuals. So we're kind of going along. I know we're sort of jumping all over the place, but as we're going on this pathway of empowerment, we certainly talked about the recognizing of the emotions and the awareness piece. What follows that?
Yeah. So I think what follows that is it's practice, right? It's not perfection. It's building an everyday
Yep.
practice.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that practice is reflection at the end of the day. Hey, what went well for me today? what didn't go so well for me today? How can I think about maybe how I would handle that situation differently in the future?
Yep.
And it's just building that mental muscle of learning to pause, respond, and then reflect. Like, okay, so I didn't maybe quite get the outcome that I wanted. So maybe I need to think about that a little bit deeper. Why did I? And I think it's just a deeper curiosity with ourselves and to kind of go to that place where we can be really vulnerable and honest. Because I think even though it's like, who's going to hear this conversation that I'm having with myself? Nobody but me, right?
Right.
And but still, it's like we want to hide the truth from ourselves, and we can finally acknowledge, like, yeah, I really stepped in it, and maybe I need to offer an apology. And maybe I need to go to that person and apologize. And when you take that next step and you maybe call the person that you maybe had harsh words with and you
Yep.
apologize to them,
Hmm.
you've built deeper community, you've built a deeper relationship, you've strengthened something in yourself, and you strengthen something in someone else, because then they have an opportunity to accept your apology or not. Now that's on them,
Yes.
but you're modeling something that says an acknowledgement is like, hey, I said some harsh things today, and I was stressed out about something else and I took it out on you, and I'm really sorry. And it becomes like a deep, beautiful place to have a relationship. And so I think what's next, it's learning how to reflect and then how to carry those reflections forward
Hmm.
to continue just to build on the practice. It's a gentle practice you do every day.
Yep.
I have alarms set on my phone that go off like every couple of hours to remind me. They call them PQ reps. And so literally I stop wherever I am, sitting in my chair, what have you, and I just kind of breathe for like 90 seconds, take a
Yep.
couple deep breaths, maybe hold my breath for a second or two, and just allow whatever it is that I'm feeling to surface.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
it's just building on this really nice, gentle, kind practice that allows you to build that mental or that self-empathy muscle.
Mm. You've used the word gentle a few times, and I absolutely love the fact that you do, because it's we talked about sort of having grace in ourselves, and we're gentle and forgiving of the things that happen, and maybe we made some mistakes, or maybe we could have reacted differently, or maybe we could have taken an alternate viewpoint. Whatever that is, if we're able to be gentle with ourselves in that lesson, because it's what we're doing, we're learning a lesson in the moment, right? There's no manual or script or handbook that we get in advance that here's how you do this. It's in the moment that we're learning, we're practicing and learning at the same time. And so in that, and so because of that, and because we're in that practice state, it's natural that mistakes are going to happen, and that's where that gentleness and why that's so important, that we're gentle with us. So I just wanted to touch on that because that's really, really important.
And I think it's important to me too, because we can be so harsh on ourselves.
Yes, we can.
And the world, there's all these harsh messages that we get from the world, and social media, and all this, the news, and it's like I think need some gentleness in our lives.
Mhm.
And I don't need to be hard on myself, right? Because then I'm not really going to learn and move forward. That harshness is going to make me probably stay stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And stuck is where we don't want to be, because
I
that's
do
just
not want to be stuck.
that's taking us back to square one, quite frankly, right?
Yes, it does. It's preventative. It prevents you from moving on to the next thing. It prevents you from being creative. It prevents you
Hmm.
from dreaming. And
Ah.
that was, I think, one of the things where when I was really going through a very stressful period of my life, because I am a very creative person, is that I couldn't create anything. I couldn't dream. I didn't have any visions for things that needed to get accomplished. And then I knew it was like something is stopping me from this,
Mm.
because I get a lot of life from creativity.
Yep.
Um, and and I think I was created to be a creative person, right?
Right.
Um, and so it's like, what's stopping me from this? What is preventing me from enjoying the gifts that I think I was blessed with?
Yes.
And it's like, and it kind of goes back to, it's like, well, am I believing something that's untrue? Am I allowing the stresses of the world to impact me and influence the way I
Right.
react and respond? And it's like, yeah, it is. And so I need to disconnect and take a break and be kind and gentle to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are really, really fair questions, right? When you look at your own actions and how you respond to things. So fantastic questions. You touched on creativity. I'm glad you did. I wonder if you sort of talk about how significant creativity can be in our lives.
Oh my gosh. Well, and it looks so different for a lot of, for everybody.
Mhm.
But I think when we're creative, we're playing.
Mm.
And if we, as children, we're always, I mean, I remember being a kid, I didn't want to come home. I was always outside riding my bike, running around the neighborhood. And that's a whole creative process. And then as you get older, we're sort of trained not to be playful, right? The world says you have to sit behind your school desk for 8 hours a day, and then you have to
Right.
do 6 hours of homework, and you have to do, like we have these very rigid boxes that we sit in. And so when you
All
meet,
things I struggle with, by the way. I'm just putting that out there.
what, like sitting at a desk for 8 hours, I very much struggle with that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD undiagnosed. Pretty sure.
That's funny.
But I just think creativity, it brings joy. It allows you to get messy. It allows you to really see the beautiful things in life that when we're just so heads down focused on other things that we miss.
Right. Beautiful things, wonderful things that are at our disposal that we just overlook and not see because our headspace is somewhere else. So no, beautiful, so beautiful. Your work must be so uplifting, empowering, and being able to make the difference. What I know it's going to be different for each individual, but at the end of that empowerment journey, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I have like a 6-week coaching program that's sort of kind of an introduction into positive intelligence, how to implement it into your life. And we meet in a small group. I like to do small groups that are about 5 people, just create community and allow you to be authentic in a smaller group of people. And then I'll meet individually with these ladies once a week.
Mhm.
And then ongoing, it's like a monthly, a monthly meeting to talk about like what's going well for you, like a bit of a mastermind, if you will, to unpack and to have an opportunity to be creative and creative problem solvers. And it's watching people move from incredibly overwhelmed and stressed out to, oh, I don't like this happened. And now I don't feel so frantic about it.
Right.
It's
Right.
incredible. That that experience carries on to other aspects of your life. They did a study of mindfulness
Mhm.
in Dallas. They took 2 classrooms,
Okay.
same same grade level, same
Yep.
number of students. One teacher, both teachers practiced mindfulness in their own daily lives.
Okay.
One teacher practiced it in the classroom, implemented some things in the classroom with the children.
Okay.
The other teacher did not. What was interesting about the study is that the children responded the same way in the classroom, meaning that the teacher who was integrating small mindfulness practices in the classroom, the kids, when they were measured at the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and the improvements that they had with reactivity and talking out of turn and all of the various points that they were measuring and the improvements that they noticed the same level of improvements with the teacher who did not practice mindfulness in the classroom with her students.
Hmm.
It came from the teacher. It was rubbing off on them. And then you kind of get into this whole thing about mirror neurons and
Right.
all of
Right.
that. So it kind of gets into like a deeper neurological conversation. But I just think the point is, especially for single moms, that if we can make these small changes for ourselves, it rubs off on our children.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, as I'm reflecting, it's just so impactful, and the piece that really is exciting is that you now have the ability to impact generations. right? This is what we're talking about here. And so now, because again, we get so many cues from our upbringing, from our parents, and things that we've learned, and some of them are lies, and some of them are true, but some of them are things that stick with us. Oftentimes, a lot of them stick with us. It becomes our way of being. And I remember hearing a story once. There was it was a young girl. I guess she watched her grandmother, and when they made turkey like around Thanksgiving time, the mother used to cut off the wings and put them in cook them in the pot like along the side, and so she grew up and that's what she did as well, and just cut the wings off, and that's how they did. That's how they cooked the turkey. And it wasn't until someone asked did they start to realize the reason why the grandmother did that is because the pot was too small. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. But everyone else thought it was a tradition and this is how we do it. And oh, you're supposed to do this. And it's not, it was just that's not the case at all. And so the whole idea of changing beliefs and challenging perceptions and not say the grandmother wasn't doing anything wrong, right? But when we start to challenge why we do the things that we do, we realize that we don't need to do them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's so often it's so true. And that's a great analogy of something, it's just a turkey, but there are other things, right? There are these historical lessons, and you kind of get into epigenetics and the way our genes are changed by the stressors of our forebears and how that gene expression which is also very interesting, but yes, it's like those modeled things that we saw that we got from our parents. And then when you finally stop to say, why am I doing the same thing my mom did? That wasn't actually very helpful, Mom. I'm going to do something different with my kids.
That's right. That's right. That's actually funny. So the name of your organization is Above, Not Beneath.
Above and Not Beneath. Yes.
Explain the title for me, please.
Sure. It actually comes from Deuteronomy 28:13. And it is in honor of my mother. When my sister and I were little, she used to say a prayer over us, and it's, you are the head and not the tail, and you are above and not beneath, and blessed are the fruits of your labor. And my mother passed 2.5 years ago. And whenever I feel I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling like I'm, not capable or whatever, I remember that for years, my whole life, these are the words that my mother prayed over me, and that they're powerful because words and language are powerful.
Yeah.
And so I named my organization Above and Not Beneath because I feel like a lot of these women that I work with don't feel that way, but it's not true.
Right.
And that they are above and not beneath.
I love it. I love it. I know we talked earlier about sort of self-talk, but you just said now again how powerful our language and words are, and how much of a difference. And I think oftentimes that is the difference maker for why we decide to do things or move forward or take bold, audacious steps. I mean, on this podcast, we talk so much about being your bold, audacious self and taking that first step. And oftentimes it's in our head saying, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I should. I'm afraid. What if something happens to me? And when we shift and change that language is, what if something good comes out of this? I'm sure I can do this. I've never tried before, but let's try it. Like it shifts it entirely. And when you can make that kind of shift, it changes the perspective on everything.
It absolutely does. It changes your subconscious, that language. And it's, I was having a conversation with somebody, and it was like, I should. I said, girl, you are shoulding a lot. That's not helpful. It's not helpful. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you should have done whatever, but well, now what are you going to do? Right. Because I think that language should, could, would have,
Yep.
They're excuses, right? Sometimes it's like, no. What do you actually want?
You can actually do.
Want? Because you could do that, sure, but is it actually what you want to do? And I think we're afraid to say what we actually want, because I think on some level we're afraid of the success that maybe we can actually achieve that.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So I do think language is powerful. And it's, again, I think it just goes back to like pausing and reflecting. I'm like, I think I could change some of the way I say things. give myself more of a shot than I have been in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Robyn, this is so awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time here to share the way you have. I think using positive intelligence as a coaching model is a fantastic way and starting point of getting individuals on that pathway. And in your case, specifically single mothers on that pathway to greatness, and really, you're empowering a mother who now can empower their child, who can empower their child. So again, as I said earlier, it's generational work that you're doing. So congratulations on all that. It's fantastic stuff. I know you're a podcaster as well, so we got to give a opportunity to shout out a fellow podcaster for individuals who want to. Maybe you can explain the podcast, and we can let people know how they can catch it.
So the podcast is called Above and Not Beneath, and so I talk to a lot of women telling their stories of like where they were and where they are now, and some of that victory journey. And I always ask them, like, what kind of advice or encouragement could you give to somebody who is maybe 10 steps behind you and struggling? And the other part of that, and I've had a great fun finding organizations, is talking to organizations who are serving women. There is so much good work going on in the world.
Yes.
There are so many incredible organizations who are like, come into my door. I love you. I want to serve you. I want to help you. So I'm interviewing these organizations to bring awareness to what they're doing, because maybe somebody needs their service and they don't know that it's there.
Right.
Maybe somebody in a different city is like, I wonder if we have something like that here. No, we don't. Maybe we should. Right. Because I just, there's so much negativity in the world. I'm like, no, there's some great stuff going on.
You're right.
There's great stuff going on. And I want to talk to those people and share what's happening in their organizations and how they're making an impact. And so it's really just about encouragement and positivity and helping others, to your point, live their audacious life. Right?
You got it. That's phenomenal. For our listeners that want to connect with you or learn about your work or check out your podcast, where can we send them, Robyn?
Sure. You can go to my website, abovenotbeneath.org, and also on Instagram, Above Not Beneath Coach. You can find me in either location. You can book a free consultation with me through the website if you'd like. And I would love the opportunity to meet you and have a conversation.
Well, I'm glad that we spent the time today. Again, I said off the top how much I'm appreciative of you being here, and I do mean that. Thank you. Congratulations on the great work, and all the best, my friend.
Yes, thank you so much, Audley. So much fun and such a pleasure to be here.
Back we are here on the podcast. So much thanks and appreciation goes out to Robyn for being here and sharing her insights and experiences. I think that the work that she's doing with single mothers is phenomenal, and that empowerment work is just amazing. I also appreciated her emphasis on language and how impactful that is. So again, Robyn, thank you for being here. I really enjoyed the chat that we had, and if there's one thing I take from my conversation with Robyn, it would have to be this. Language is powerful. The words we use, the way we speak to ourselves and others matters more than we think. Our internal dialogue can either uplift us or hold us back. It's time to challenge the negative self-talk, the could-haves and the should-haves, and shift our language to reflect positivity and possibility. Because when we do, we open up a world of potential, creativity, and empowerment. It's about recognizing that we are at the head and not the tail, above, not beneath. It's about owning our own audacious selves and stepping into our greatness for ourselves as well as generations to come. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. On today's conversation with Robyn, she reminded us about the power of our language and the impact it has in our lives. And as we wrap up, I encourage you to take a moment and reflect on your own internal dialogue. Are your words empowering you and others, or is it not? Join us next time as we continue to explore audacious living and help others live their best audacious lives ever. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audacious Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.